Hello, so I'm going to do a walkthrough for the OCR paper from last May, June time. We're going to look at paper, all the higher tier papers, 4, 5 and 6. This is paper 4. I'll do them in separate recordings. This is paper 4 and you can use a calculator for this. So it's up to you how you want to watch it. You may want to do the entire paper first and then watch my recorded answers, or you might want to do it question by question and look at me going through the answer. I just think that listening to a recording of the answer and seeing a human going through it instead of reading the mark scheme can be a bit easier sometimes. Okay, so if we start for this first one, calculate this calculation, give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So, well, it's calculator paper. Let's just pop it straight into the calculator and you should have got this answer. So remember, it's 3 significant figures, not 3 decimal places. So it's your first 3 numbers here. So you can see it would round to 7.57. See, because of that 8, you would round that 6 up to a 7. So your answer there, 7.57 for your 2 marks. Okay, so the price of petrol decreases from this amount to this amount. Calculate the percentage decrease in the price. So there's a couple of ways you can do these percentage change questions. You could do a straight division and work it out from the multiplier, or you can remember this formula. Difference divided by original times 100. You will not be given this formula, you will have to remember it. And this formula works out percentage change. So if you ever ask for a percentage increase or decrease, percentage profit or loss, you can use this formula. Okay, so for our difference, subtract these values. £1.32 minus £1 and 2 pence is 30p, or 0.3. This is the original. Don't forget, if you did use 30p, you're dividing it by 132. You need consistent units all the time. Okay, it doesn't ask for a specific decimal place or significant figures for the rounding. So I'm going to round mine to 22.7%. But you would have got this for 23% as long as you rounded it correctly. We've got Eve, Jack and Ling share some money in the ratio 2 to 3 to 4. So I always think of this in terms of like parts. Eve here has 2 parts. Jack here has 3 parts. And Ling has 4 parts. Jack gets £720. These 3 boxes are for Jack. So our first step is to work out what each part's worth or how much goes into each box. So 720 divided by 3 is 240. Each part in your ratio represents the same amount. So every one of these boxes has £240 in it. Just put an arrow here. How much does Ling get? Well, Ling's got 4 boxes. Hang on, let me just put a bit of working out here. So Ling has 4 boxes, each with £240 in. So £960 in total. Okay, so we've got Amir, Beth and Casey share some money in the ratio 3 to 5 to C. Casey's share is 2/3 of the total. Right, so if Casey's share is 2/3 of the total, just thinking about this in fractions, then Amir and Beth's share must be 1/3, right? So can we see that Casey's share is double Amir and Beth's share? So I'm going to almost think of it like this. This is 1, this is worth 1, and this is double, worth 2. But actually, we've got 8 parts at the moment here. 3 out of 5 is 8. So Casey's must be double that, which is 16. Okay, Alex invests £4,500 at a rate of 7.5% per year. So this is simple interest, not compound. So the amount of interest is the same each year. So let's just work out 7.5% of 4,500 first. I would just type this straight into my calculator. 7.5% is a decimal, divide it by 100 to get 0.075. So Alex is going to get that much interest each year. And it's for 4 years, so we're going to times it by 4. We want the value of the investment after the 4 years, so we're going to add back on the 4,500. So that's how much he has in total. It's 5,850. Okay, at the end of 2 years, the value of the investment is over 13,500 for the first time. Find the value of T. Well, I'm going to take off my initial investment. 9,000. So that represents the amount of interest that Alex is going to get in total for those 2 years. We know he's getting £337.50 each year. I'm just going to divide it by £337.50. And again, it doesn't ask us for a specific amount of decimal places to round. So you get this as your answer. I'm going to round it to 27 years. But you would have got all 3 marks if you'd put 26.6 recurring or 26.7. Okay, so we're going to write this number in standard form. So don't forget, because it's a small number, it's negative power. First number, standard form, needs to be between 1 and 10. So we need 3.86. Okay, so how many times are you dividing 3.86 by 10 to get this number? 3. You're moving your number 1, 2, 3 places, so it's -3 because you're dividing it. Okay, the speed of sound is 3.43 times 10 to the -1 kilometers per second. An object is traveling at the speed of sound. Work out how far the object travels in 1 day. So this means it's going this distance every second. So we want to convert that to a day. I'm going to, if you can use your calculator in standard form, that is fine. I'm just going to convert this to an ordinary number first. Okay, so that's per second. I'm going to times it by 60 to get per minute. Times it by 60 to get per hour, and then times it by 24 to get per day. And again, it's not asked us, so I'm going to give them an answer as it's a terminating decimal, 29,635.2. Right, so in a science fiction story, a spacecraft traveling faster than the speed of light is said to be traveling at warp n, where n is an integer. It's an interesting question. Warp n is defined as n cubed times the speed of light. In the story, a spacecraft needs to travel from Earth to Neptune in less than 2 minutes. Ooh, so I've got a time here, haven't I? The speed of light is 3 times 10 to the 5, so I've got a speed. And the distance from Earth to Neptune is this distance. So hopefully we've spotted this as a speed, distance, time question. Well, it's quite a lengthy worded one. So right, hang on. So speed equals distance over time, right? And we're working out n. That's what we want to do. So warp n is defined by n cubed times the speed of light. And this is the speed of light. And so we know speed is equal to distance over time. This is our distance. I'm going to just type this into my calculator in standard form in a minute. You can convert if you want. And our time is 2 minutes. Right, but just always with speed, distance, time, always check your units. Do we have consistent units? This is kilometers per second and this is minutes, so we don't. Let's convert that into minutes. So 2 times 60 is 120. Okay, so I'm just going to type that straight into my calculator. I'm going to work this out. 4.41. You do have a standard form button, which I am going to use. And I'm going to divide it by 120, which gives me this answer here. So I know n cubed times 3 times 10 to the 5. $34,500,000. I want to make n cubed the subject now. So I'm going to divide, you could do this in a couple of different, couple of stages. I'm going to divide this whole thing by both sides by 3 times 10 to the 5. Give you 115. I want to know, still want to know what n is. I know n cubed is 150, so we need to cube root both sides. Gives you 4.86, but n is an integer, so n is equal to 5. We've got a 6-sided numbered spinner is thrown 50 times, and we've got some scores and frequencies in this table. What's the value of f and what's the value of n from this information? So we know our frequency gives us a total of 50. So we should subtract all of these values off 50, we get f is 7. Okay, next step, so how we're actually given the mean score. So we're given our answer for 50 throws. How would you normally find the mean from a frequency table? Well, we start by doing our score times frequency, which we can do in a lot of these cases. But this is just 4n. Okay, so our next step would usually be finding the total of this column here that I've created. If I add those up, we have 215 plus 4n. Once we've got our total, we usually divide it by 50 to then get our answer. So we know that our total for this column, I'm just going to call it total here, divided by 50 is equal to 5.5. So what must our total be? So if we times both sides by 50, gives you your total as 275. We know this 215 plus 4n is equal to 275. I'm going to just solve this equation now. So let's take 215 off both sides. Divide both sides by 4. Gives you n is 15. So for your full marks here, f is 7, n is 15. Okay, so for our question 7, we're actually given all our values in the table for this function here. So we want to draw the graph of y equals 6 over x minus 2x. So I'm just going to plot my points first. Minus 4 and 6.5. Minus 3 and 4. So while I'm doing this, trying to see what type of graph is this. The linear graph is usually of the form something like 3x minus 1, so which is a straight line graph. It's not a straight line graph. We have a curved graph like this, if it's y equals x squared minus 3. It's not a curved graph either. Look, it's not a quadratic graph. We haven't got any x squareds in there. -1, -4. So it already looks disjointed, doesn't it, from my answer? This is actually a reciprocal graph. So our reciprocal graphs generally, so this is the graph for y equals 1 over x. Can't do 6 divided by x. It's impossible, which is why our graph is disjointed. So you might have been wondering what to do here, but you join up as two separate curves. I'll try and join this the best I can. So it's easier to do with pencil and paper, but kind of something like this. It should look like. Oops. Okay, so as I said, it is easy to draw on paper. Right, use your graph to find the positive solution of 6 over x minus 2x equals 0. We've drawn this graph. When is it equal to 0? When does it produce an answer of 0? It's 2 places. Really interesting in one, but there, for that x value, we get an answer of 0, and here. But specifically, the question asks for our positive solution. This is our positive solution because this is negative. So I'm going to say 1.8. X is equal to 1.8 because it wants it to one decimal place. Diagram shows a circle inside a square of side 12 centimetres. Work out the percentage of the square that's shaded. So what's the area of our entire square? 12 times 12. What's the area of our circle? You do need to know this formula. Pi r squared. Radius is 6. $113.097. I'm going to subtract the 113 from 144. That would give us all 4 corners. Obviously, I'm just interested in 1/4. I'm going to divide that by 4. Gives you 7.73. So that's the amount, the area that's shaded. We want the percentage of the square that's shaded. So think about what fraction of the square is shaded first. Well, it's 7.73 out of a total of 144. And then convert that into a percentage. So we'll just do that as a straight division to get it as a decimal first. Which gives you 0.0537. Times it by 100 to get it as a percentage, 5.37%. Or you might have, on the mark scheme here, it says anything from 5.36 to 5.4. You might have rounded it slightly different to me. The sides of this triangle are given in centimetres. The perimeter of the triangle is 80 centimetres. Find the length of each side of the triangle. I'm going to show you working out. So we're given the perimeter. So let's find the perimeter in terms of x. To find the perimeter, it's the distance around the shape. We've formed our equation. Let's simplify. 2x add 3x, add x is 6x, plus 14 equals 80. So now we just need to make x a subject. So let's take 14 off both sides first. Divide both sides by 6 to get x is 11. Now we know what unknown side we can actually work out our missing lengths. So 11 plus 5 is 16. 3 times 11 plus 1 34. And then 22. 2 times 11 is 22 plus 8 is 30. Is the triangle above a right angle triangle? So it's not drawn to scale. It doesn't look like it from the picture, but it's not drawn to scale. So we need to justify it with some maths. So 3 lengths, right angle triangles. Hopefully you're thinking Pythagoras. What's Pythagoras' theorem? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I've got my 16 is one of my shorter lengths, and so is my 30. So is this a right angle triangle? Does it satisfy Pythagoras' theorem? So I'm going to put in my 16 squared and my 30 squared and just see, make C the subject. If it is 34, then it's a right angle triangle. If it's not, then it's not a right angle triangle. I'm going to add those. The 16 squared and 30 squared is 1,156. And I'm going to square root both sides to get C is 34. So yes, it is a right angle triangle. And I'm going to put because 16 squared plus 30 squared equals 34 squared as my justification. Okay, 100 people were asked whether they visited France or Spain. 55 had visited France. This whole circle here represents 55. 60 has visited Spain, so the whole circle here represents Spain. 4 had not visited either country. The problem here is we do not know this overlap. What is the overlap from the information we're given? So we know this plus this equals 96, don't we? Because there's 100 people and 4 did not visit any country. What's 55 plus 60 is 115. So we've got, because there's an overlap, isn't there? Some of those people visited France and Spain. Hang on, but we know 55 add 60 is 115. But we want this 3 to add up to 96. So I'm going to do 115 minus 96, which gives you 19. That's your overlap. You could have done it algebraically. That's how I like to work out my overlap, like this. Okay, so then 55 take away 19. Just France only is 36, and 60 take away 19. Just Spain only is 11. Write down the probability that this person have visited exactly one of these countries. Let me just look at each bit. Well, they've visited exactly one country because they visited France. They've visited both. Don't want those. They visited just Spain. So 36 add 11 is 47. 47 out of 100. You may have put your answer as a decimal. That would be absolutely fine. Hang on a second. Sorry, I've worked out one of these incorrectly, haven't I? Hopefully you've spotted this. 60 minus 19 is not 11, is it? Sorry, 60 minus 19 is 41. So that should be 41. Sorry, so 41 plus, I was on autopilot then, 41 plus 36 is 77. So this should be 77 out of 100. Okay, so hopefully you noticed that mistake as I was doing it, but it's all been corrected now. Okay, so write down the probability this person had visited France, given they had also visited Spain. So we know this person's visited Spain, so it's out of 60 people. What's the probability this person had visited France? Well, these 19 people out of the total of the Spain visited France, so it's 19 out of 60. So this is kind of difficult to show you without showing you like on a piece of paper, really. I'm going to try my best. So you can use tracing paper for this. When you sit this exam, you should be given tracing paper. I'm going to use paper on my screen. and I'm just going to turn it round. So describe fully the single transformation that's equivalent to a rotation of 180 degrees with centre 0, 1, followed by this translation. So I need to rotate the shape 180 degrees from 0, 1. We've not given a direction, doesn't matter, does it? You get to the same place clockwise or anti-clockwise. So I'm going to put my tracing paper over this shape and I'm going to turn it 180 degrees. Can't see me doing this. Okay, so I'll describe what I'm doing. Put my paper over the top. I'm going to trace over my triangle and I'm going to trace over the dots. I'm going to turn it from the dot a quarter and another quarter. And you should get your triangle here. No, I'm going to have to take this away to draw it. So this is what your triangle should look like. Done this transformation, I've rotated it. I now need to perform a translation of 4, 0. So let me choose this corner here. This means 4 to the right. If it was negative, it would be left. And 0 means I'm not moving it up or down. I'm just going 4 right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've performed all my transformations now. What is a single transformation that maps this triangle here to this triangle there? So you should be able to see it has it's turned, so it's been rotated. So I need to say rotation. So with these, when I'm trying to figure out how it's been rotated, well, we can see it's 180 degrees, can't we? So you need the amount of turn, you need a direction, but 180 degrees, you do not need a direction because it could be clockwise or anti-clockwise, it would be the same position. And then we also need a centre of rotation. So I'd use my tracing paper until I found the correct one. So it was a bit of trial and error really, but you should find your centre of rotation is 2, 1. And again, just check up with your tracing paper, make sure you get that. Here are two functions. We've got function A, we've got function B. Write an algebraic expression for the output of function A when the input is X. If I put X into here, I'd add 5 to it. Times it by 3 and times in the whole thing by 3, which is, if I expanded those brackets, 3x plus 15, you could have either one of those answers there to get your mark. Function C, the input to function C is X. If I put X in function A and then function B, the output is 2x plus 1. Find the value of X. Let me actually put X through function A and function B first. I know if I put my X through function A, I get 3x plus 15. If I put that into my function B, times 2, take away 1. We also know that that's equal to 2x plus 1. Then I've got an equation to solve. Balance your x's out first, subtract 2x from both sides. Subtract 29 from both sides. Divide both sides by 4. X is minus 7. Right, just before you start this one, this question here was discounted. Everybody was given that mark. So you can ignore that question. Okay, question 13. Have you been able to spot the mistake here? So when we add fractions, we find a common denominator. They have got that correctly. They've multiplied x minus 1 by x plus 4. Now, if we were then finding our equivalent fractions, because you've times this by x plus 4, you should have times this number by x plus 4 too. They haven't. They've times it by x minus 1. So I'm going to write numerator Should be. And then we should have times 3 by x minus 1. So that's what the numerator should look like. They don't want us to continue with it. That's enough for your 1 mark. College offers 41 different subjects. Students are asked to choose one subject from each of the following. 14 subjects, including 2 languages for option A. For B, for C, work out the proportion of all the possible subject combinations that include at least 1 language. So once the answer is the proportion, so that means a fraction. What I think I'll work out first of all is how many different combinations can we have of all possible subjects for A, B, and C. Because we've got 14 for option A, 12 for option B, it's 15 for option C. I'm just going to multiply those together. So give me the total different combinations of options of subjects for the options. I know it's going to be out of this amount. Right, so he wants a proportion of all the possible subject combinations that include at least 1 language. It's quite a difficult question, this. So let's say for you chose, let's just look at a combination that would be combination of subjects that would be at least 1 language. So let's say A, you could choose French, but B and C, you've got business studies and PE, let's say. You've got at least 1 language there. Or you could have French for option A, Spanish for option B, PE for option C. That would also be at least 1 language. There's quite a lot of different combinations that include at least 1 language. So what I prefer to do with these questions is look at what's not at least 1 language. So the opposite of at least 1 language is no languages at all. That's going to be easier to work out. Option A, how many non-languages do we have? Well, 14 take away 2 is 12. Option B, how many non-languages do we have? 12 take away 3 is 9. Non-languages here would be 11. If I multiply those together, get 1,188. That gives me the different subjects that would all include no languages. So I know if I do 2,520, take away this 1,188, all those answers would have, all those combinations would have at least 1 language, because it's kind of like the opposite. So the answer is 1,332 over 2,520. Okay, next question. Inverse proportion. So y is inversely proportional to the square root of x. Don't forget, if it is direct proportion, it's y is proportional to root x, but it's not inverse. So y equals k over root x. Y is 7. We want to work out the value of k. So don't forget here that k remains the same all the time. It's the y and the x that are changing. Okay, 7 times 12 is 84, so k is 84. So our equation, we can replace our k for 84. So we know that y is equal to 84 over root x. We want to find the value of y when x is 16, sorry. So y is equal to 84 over root 16. So y is 21. If it rains on a given day, the probability it will rain on the next day is 0.65. If it does not rain on a given day, the probability that it will rain the next day is 0.3. It rained on Monday. Okay, so because we're looking at our Tuesday now, probability it will rain on Tuesday 0.65. Subtract that from 1, 0.35 here. It did rain here, so we want the same probability on Wednesday. If it does not rain on a given day here, the Tuesday, Probability it will rain the next day, 0.3. So that's 0.7. Don't forget each of the branches add up to 1. We want the probability that it rains on Wednesday. So here it's rained on Wednesday. Here it's rained on Wednesday. So we multiply along our branches. 0.65 times 0.65. No rain, because it still rained on Wednesday. So it's that option or that option. Might have your answer as a fraction. My decimal answer is 0.5275, which is 211 over 400. Either of those answers are fine. 2 marks, 3 marks. Okay, circle theorem. So PQR on the circumference of a circle, work out angle A. You've got a tangent touching a circle here, so you should be thinking the alternate segment theorem. So tangent touching a circle, this angle here is the same as this angle here, which is 67. And that is your reason, alternate segment theorem. That is all you need to say. Angle B. Right, now, here we've got a radius touching a tangent. So we know this angle here is 90 degrees. Okay, so 90, take away 67, gives us 23. And because radius touching a tangent is 90 degrees. More circle theorems. So I'm just looking at that and I can see my cyclic quadrilateral. And I can see my angle at the centre is double the angle at the edge. Don't have any numbers here, I just have an unknown x. So obtuse, what does it mean by the obtuse angle EOG? Well, that's an obtuse angle because it's between 90 and 180, so it's this angle here. If that's x, this is double, so this is 2x. What's your reason? Angle at the centre is double the angle of the circumference. The reflex angle EOG. So this is the reflex angle here because it's bigger than 180. So if that angle is 2x, this angle is 360 minus 2x, isn't it? Because angles round a point add up to 360. Therefore, angle EFG. So this is still, I call this the arrow theorem. This is a bit the arrow theorem in disguise. Can you see here, we've still got an angle at the centre and an angle at the circumference. So this angle here is double this angle here at the circumference. So what's half of 360 minus 2x? It's 180 minus x. Can you see how I've used my angle, my same theorem? Angle at the centre is double the angle at the circumference, which will give us this one here is 180 minus x. Write down what your working in part B has proved. So we've actually proved here that angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180, haven't we? Because x, and this is 180 minus x. So cyclic quadrilateral. And that's opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add to 180. Show that the equation x cubed plus x squared minus 5 is equal to 0 has a solution between 1 and 2. So if I put 1 into the equation, 1 cubed is 1, plus 1 squared is 1, take away 5, we get an answer of -3. If I substitute 2 into this equation, 2 cubed plus 2 squared minus 5, I get an answer of 8 plus 4 minus 5, which is 7. Hang on, I forgot my minus there, didn't I? 1 plus 1 minus 5. Right, okay, so we want our solution to be 0, don't we? And our solution, we've shown, because we've got an answer either side of 0, we've actually shown our solution lies between these values here. So we know it's got a solution between x equals 1 and x equals 2. So I'm just going to put here like this. Okay, find the solution correct to 1 decimal place. So we know our answer. This is trial and improvement now. So we know our answers between 1 and 2. So let's choose a number between 1 and 2. I'm going to choose 1.4. So 1.4 cubed plus 1.4 squared minus 5 gives us an answer minus 0.296. We want our answer to be 0, so this is too small. 1.5 then. 1.5 cubed plus 1.5 squared minus 5, 0.625. Slightly too big. So we know it's, which one is it closer to? I was just like, look on a bit of a number line here. We know the solution lies between 1.4 and 1.5. My answer 1.4 is minus 0.296. So let's just look at what the answer, so let's substitute in an x between 1.4 and 1.5, be 1.45. So 1.45 cubed was 1.45 squared minus 5 is 0.151. We actually want our answer to be 0. Where does 0 lie? Here. Well, it's here, which is close to 1.4. So x is 1.4 to 1 decimal place. Okay, question 19. Okay, so between 7 minutes and 15 minutes, the velocity of the particle is v meters per minute. The average velocity of the particle over 20 minutes is 11.55 meters per minute. Calculate the value of v. So let's have a look. We know we can get the distance, don't we, by finding the area under this graph. So let's start looking at our distances. We're given the average velocity here, aren't we? So what's your distance here? Half base times height. So half 7 times v would be 3.5 v. And your distance here? Your base is 5, half base times height. 5 times v divided by 2 would be 2.5 v. Okay, and we've just got a rectangle in the middle here. So we've got between 7 and 15 as our base, and we've got a height, so we've got 8v. Okay, so again, so velocity is speed in a certain direction, isn't it? So we've got speed equals distance over time. So we know our speed, or our average velocity, is 11.55. Our distance, oops, sorry, I've got my V there, is all of these added together. So we've got 8V, add 2.5, add 3.5, gives you 14V. And our time is 20 minutes. Again, check for consistencies with the units. Yep, that's fine. Let's make V the subject, so times both sides by 20. Divide both sides by 14. So you should have got V is 16.5. Okay, last question. I'm looking at it and thinking already cosine sine rule. Oh, we've got to show that here. So I know you are given your formulas for this exam, some formulas. You probably will be given this one. So it would look something like this. Be a list of formulas. So for your sine rule, you're given A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. For your cosine rule, I'll put up here. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. And then you're given area of a triangle, half AB sine C. Right, so which one do we need to apply here? Show the angle BAC is 40.5. Just going to put that as an X. Hopefully you recognise this is using your cosine rule from it an angle. I always look for opposites. If it's opposites, it's sine rule. If it's not, it's cosine rule. You've got an opposite here, but we don't know any other angles, so it's cosine rule. Okay, so big A, little b, little c. 8.2 squared, 12.5 squared plus 10.6 squared minus 2 times 12.5 times 10.6 times cos A is our unknown, or just cos X. I'd work out as many things as you can first. It's not the easiest thing to rearrange this. So we want to make cos X a subject and then X. I'm going to work these out and add them together. So put my calculator, 12.5 squared plus 10.6 squared. Two times 12.5 times 10.6. Right, I need to make cos X the subject first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 268.61 off both sides. So 67.24 minus 268.61. Gives you minus 201.37. Opposite of multiplying by minus 265 is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by minus 265. Minus 201.37 divided by minus 265 gives you 0.75988. How do I make X a subject now? I need cos to the minus 1 both sides. You should get 40, and I get 40.5. So I have here, I've shown that BAC equals 40.5. I know I've got all my 3 marks there. Have got an alternative here. You can just memorize the rearranged version of this cosine rule. Okay, work out the area of triangle ABC. So now, even if you couldn't get that one, that first part A right, because they've given you this angle here, you could have actually got your part B. So area of a triangle equals half AB sine C. So we need to kind of, so sometime I'm going to redraw it out and just relabel it. Because this is my big C here. That's my little c. I'm going to call this big A, big B, little b. Because you want half AB sine C. C needs to be your angle. So half times, I'm gone, A is 12.5, B is 10.6. So we've got half times 12.5 times 10.6 times sine 40.5. So when you're using the sine rule, those two lengths kind of like need to enclose, the two given lengths need to, sorry, for the given angle that you're going to use, the lengths need to enclose it like this. So half times 12.5 times 10.6 times sine 40.5, 43.03, or just 43 should do. Yeah, they give you 2 marks, 43.02 to 43.07. That's the last question. Okay, hopefully you found that useful, and thanks for listening.